There was a Capitol car attack on Friday, and the mainstream media rushed to not say a goddamn word about it as soon as it happened. So we'll talk a bit about what happened there, and we asked the question, Capitol car attack? What Capitol car attack? In other news, a major earthquake may have rocked California right before we went live, so we'll talk a bit about what's going on with that. AOC says what's happening on the border is worse, or was worse rather, under Trump because they were literally ripping children out of mothers' arms. So we'll talk a bit about what's going on there. And Ron DeSantis issues an executive order, and we'll break a little bit of that down and see what's going on with that. It's going to be all this and more. Hey, 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 do you trust the plan yet? I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Contemporary. How was your Easter weekend? How was it? It was great, and that's what I've got to say when I talk about what restores my faith in humanity at the end of the show today, because I've got to, it warmed my heart a little bit of what went on there. So we'll talk a bit about that. It's going to be all that and more. Plus, this Capitol car attack that everybody rushed to forget about as soon as it happened. It's going to be all of this and more. Thanks everybody who's coming in and hanging out here. But before we get started, and before we even get into finance here, I just wanted to bring this picture up here because I thought you guys would find it funny here. The Tao of Cat says, when the only thing people are talking about on Easter is the First Lady's fishnet stockings, you know things are getting back to normal. And what the hell is that outfit, Jill? And I love how many people came out and said, well, it's just conservatives are all angry about, they're all angry about Jill Biden's outfit. Too bad they couldn't be angry about the border crisis that was going on under Trump. Trump. And all that kind of stuff that went on with that. And, I have yet to see anybody be angry about that outfit. I see a lot of people laughing at it because it is horrifically tacky, but I have yet to see anybody be angry about that outfit. I mean, I would fire the person who set out my clothes in the morning if it was me, but, yeah, I don't know what Jill was thinking. I don't. But, you know what? It's her. It's her money. Let's get into finance to see what's going on over there. Starting with the Dow Jones. Let that think for a second and load up. It looks like the Dow had an update throughout the day. It ending at 153.21. And remember, that was back on Thursday's chart because there was no Dow on Friday. There was no trading at all on Friday. If I remember correctly, there's also no trading today, but we'll check back into that as well. So that's just your review of what happened over on Thursday. Down a little bit, and then up and up and up and up, going back to 153.21. Looking at Bitcoin for the morning. Bitcoin landed at 58,026 US dollars even over the weekend, which is a slight downtick from where we saw on Friday, which was at 59,000 US dollars. So it's up and it's down. It's holding steady right now. I don't know if there was going to be a lot of trading for the Bitcoin over the holiday weekend because a lot of people were practicing their Christian faith or their Jewish faith or even sometimes their Muslim faith over this, or maybe their pagan faith. I saw that argument going around Twitter. Well, it was a pagan holiday first. No, it was a Christian holiday first. No, it was a pagan holiday. Stop fucking arguing about this, people. Go spend time with your family, you heathens. But that's what we have to say about that. Looking at the gas, according to Gas Buddy, give that a second to load back up here. It looks like, and I looked at this earlier, we are looking at 253 straight across the board for Madison, which means that some of that's coming back down. We saw on Friday that some of the higher price stations around the Madison area were 256 and some of them are 259, but we're all sitting at 253 right now, all the way across the board from Costco in Sun Prairie, all the way down to the convenience stores of Speedway in Windsor. So that's where we're seeing our gas. Well, we'll see what happens with that. I'm curious to see where this administration goes because it does look like they are weathering the pandemic and the economy once again, but I don't trust them because I keep hearing we're going to raise the shit out of your taxes too, and that's going to be a big job killer. But, well, Let's see what the finances have to say, starting with IBD for the morning. Maybe. Dow Jones Futures jobs report fuels market rally as Tesla jumps on deliveries. 4 stocks you can buy now from Ed Carson. Dow Jones Futures rose Monday morning, along with S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures, and Treasury yields that followed Friday's strong March jobs report and record Tesla deliveries. The stock market rally showed strong action last week, with the S&P 500 hitting a new high and the NASDAQ moving back to some key areas. Google parent Alphabet, Microsoft, Apple, iPhone supplier Qorvo, and Diamondback Energy all flashed new buy points on Thursday. Google stock and Microsoft reflect bullish action among tech giants. Qorvo stock is the latest chip player to blast out. Diamondback stock is one of many oil plays looking strong as crude oil prices trend higher. Breakouts are among the many reasons to be more optimistic about the stock market rally. The S&P 500 topped 4,000 for the first time, while the NASDAQ and Russell 2000 reclaimed their 50-day lines. The NASDAQ still has one last test before investors can feel that the split market is turning into a broad market rally. And this looks like this is a copy-paste from Friday's article, but it looks like it's starting to change here because GameStop said it will sell up to 3.5 million shares, a long-awaited move to take advantage of the very high stock price. GME stock fell more than 10% in early trading. Google stock and Microsoft are on the IBD leaderboard. Google and FANG are on Swing Trader. Microsoft is on IBD long-term leaders. Tesla stock is on the IBD 50. Google and Qorvo are on the IBD Big Cap 20. On the jobs report, because that's new, that came out after we got off the air on Friday. The Labor Department's March jobs report showed a non-farm payrolls gain of 916,000. That is huge. Economists expected to see the non-farm payrolls up 625,000. Job growth should be run as hot as easing coronavirus restrictions and multiple stimulus packages spur a hiring boom. That I don't know, because we are still looking at the fact that people don't want to go back to work. Job gains for January and February were revised up by a combined 156,000. February's initially reported 379,000 gain was revised to 468,000. The jobless rate fell to 6% from 6.2%, in line with estimates. So, massive jobs growth over the last month as we start to get the vaccines out and people start to say, fuck you, we're not locking down anymore. And that's one thing I've got to wonder with this, because that's a nationwide statistic. I do have to wonder where those jobs are coming, where they're showing up, where they're popping up, which obviously I've got to guess is going to be in places like Texas, like Florida, like Mississippi, where these people are actually starting to pop up, even somewhat in Georgia too. So that's what I've got to see there. And I would expect to see that a lot of the jobs in New York City, California, Oregon, places like that are still under, we need you to be afraid of lockdown. I bet you those jobs aren't showing up there, but I bet you there are some that are popping up there too. So that would be an interesting statistic to follow as we start to see these go. How much of this is federal response and how much is state response is what I'm curious about. All right, Tesla deliveries. Tesla reported first quarter deliveries of 184,000, a new record. Analysts expected Tesla deliveries of 168,000. That's more than double a year earlier, and 2% above quarter four's 185,070. Tesla produced 180,338 vehicles in quarter one, all Model 3 or Model Y vehicles. Tesla deliveries were almost entirely Model 3 and Model Y vehicles, selling 2,020 Model S sedans and Model X SUVs. Tesla Model Y sales launched in China in January. Model Y sales reportedly were strong in the U.S. So will blowout Tesla deliveries trigger a Tesla stock revival? Tesla stock jumped 7% before Monday's open, gapping about the 21-day line to right around its March short-term peaks. After that, the 50-day line is the next key level for Tesla stock. Last week, shares rallied 7% to 661.75, but slipped back below the 21-day exponential moving average on Thursday. That's what that chart looked like. So that's a lot of what we're seeing around here. Tesla taking off, and that's going to take Bitcoin with it. Some of these businesses opening back up, almost 1 million jobs added. So that's actually kind of exciting to see. I'm not going to lie. I would love to see what the first time unemployment requests are at this point. But this is all good news right now, which makes me a little bit nervous to see what's going to happen when it all drops. So we'll keep watching this. We'll keep hanging out with this, and let's see what CNBC has to say. Dow futures surged more than 200 points after blowout jobs report from Yoon Lee. Stock futures were higher early Monday as investors reacted to a strong bounce in U.S. job growth last month amid accelerating vaccine rollout. Futures on the Dow Jones Industrial Average implied an opening gain of about 230 points. S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ 100 futures also traded in positive territory. The Labor Department reported Friday that non-farm payrolls increased by 916,000 in March, the highest since August of 2020, while the unemployment rate fell to 6%. Economists surveyed by Dow Jones were expecting an increase of 675,000 and a jobless rate of 6%. This reflects the lifting of restrictions, a ramp up in vaccinations, and boost provided by the fiscal stimulus, said Anu Gagar, senior global investment analyst at Commonwealth Financial Network. Faster jobs and wage growth can have an upward pressure on prices and test the Fed's patience with easy monetary policy. Wall Street kicked off the month of April. Go away, advertisement. Wall Street kicked off the month of April with a strong rally. The S&P 500 jumped more than 1% to top the 4,000 threshold for the first time on Thursday, bringing its 2021 gains to 7%. Last week's strength came after President Biden introduced his multi-trillion-dollar infrastructure proposal, which focuses on rebuilding roads, bridges, and airports, expanding broadband access, and boosting electric vehicle use, and updating the country's electric grid. The plan will be funded partly by a hike in the corporate tax rate to 28%. That's where you're going to start running into problems, right there. However, the plan faces opposition among Republicans as the $2 trillion plan includes initiatives that they say extend beyond traditional infrastructure issues. Well, yeah, they're going to try and get as much of their fucking wish list in as they can as we move in and try to get another budget reconciliation in. Republicans Roy Blunt of Missouri on Sunday urged the Biden admin to pare back the package to roughly $615 billion and concentrate on physical infrastructure such as roads and airports. But what about our wish list? We have a filibuster in place. We can't get our wish list in. Not unless you guys drop the filibuster, then we'll drop the package. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said last week that Biden's plan would not receive the Republican support and vowed to oppose the broader Democratic agenda. On the pandemic front, the U.S. reported another daily record of new COVID vaccinations Saturday, pushing the weekly average of new shots per day above 3 million. So, a lot of stuff happening economically. So, we may actually see a little bit of a bounce coming back up here. And once again, I don't know how it's going to last. I really don't. Hey, maybe they'll call this the Biden economy, and then when it drops back out, they'll say it's the Trump economy again. All right, but that's what we're seeing for that. All right, let's get into the big news of the weekend that nobody wants to talk about. Actually, before we do that, we got to talk about a couple things that happened over the weekend that put some people that are close to this channel in a little bit of peril, maybe. Starting with one from KTLA 5 out of Los Angeles, 4.0 magnitude earthquake hits an Inglewood area. From Tony Kerr's Wheel, a 4.0 magnitude earthquake struck just north of the 105 freeway in the South Bay region of LA early Monday, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. The temblor hit at 4:44 a.m., about a mile east-northeast of Lenox, and 2 miles southeast of Inglewood. The epicenter was located just south of West Century Boulevard. Wow, I'm talking like Bond again. Come on, man, it's with the West Century Boulevard, near Hollywood Park Casino. The preliminary depth of the quake was 11.8 miles, USGS said. The temblor struck with preliminary magnitude of 4.1 was later downgraded to 4.0 by the USGS. There was no immediate reports of injury or damage. The quake was felt as far away as Lancaster, Laguna, Niguel, Rancho Cucamonga, and Ventura, according to the USGS. And I'm not really sure of my California geography, but I know that it was felt where Britt is, which I'm actually not going to reveal off at this point. I know I'll say that she's in the LA area, but she did put out a tweet, and I actually reached out in the group chat that I'm in with her, and just to make sure that she's okay, because, that would suck if something happened to her family. And basically, she woke up because the kids were screaming, made her husband deal with it, and went back to bed. So Britt is good. But I would like it if you guys all went over and tweeted at Tweets by Britt and just made sure that she knows that you guys are thinking about her. Make sure that we all care that she's safe. So that's what we see out of Los Angeles. And on the other end, in the same state where the Gen Gap guys are, even though this is far, far away from them, let's scroll this back up here. Oh, she's running slow again today, isn't she? Florida declares state of emergency as a reservoir holding back hundreds of millions of gallons in radioactive wastewater faces imminent collapse. Because that's exactly what we need in this world. Radioactive, mutated Florida men. That's what we need in this world. From Sarah Taylor. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has declared a state of emergency as the reservoir holding back millions of gallons in radioactive wastewater is set for imminent collapse, according to Insider. The leak was detected at an old phosphate plant pond, which is located near Tampa, on Friday. According to a Sunday report from CNN, such a leak could potentially cause a collapse of phosphogypsum stacks, waste that is creating during fertilizer production, and phosphate rock mining. The old Piney Point phosphate mine contains small amounts of radium and uranium. That sounds like a rap lyric. Radium, uranium. State officials said they first discovered the leak on Friday. The outlet reported it was located in one wall of the 77-acre pond that holds about 600 million gallons of water containing phosphorus, nitrogen, and small amounts of radium and uranium. There it is again. DeSantis urged residents living in close proximity to the reservoir to evacuate on Saturday, as a collapse was reportedly considered imminent. According to CBS News, Manatee County Director of Public Safety, Jake Sauer, said a portion of the containment wall leak at the leak site shifted laterally, signifying a structural collapse could occur at any time. Officials are reportedly most concerned about the potential flooding and said the water is only slightly acidic. The water meets the water quality standards for marine waters, with the exception of pH, total phosphorus, and total nitrogen, and total ammonia nitrogen. It is slightly acidic, but not at a level that is expected to be a concern, nor is it expected to be toxic. Insider reported that authorities worked around the clock on Saturday to pump out as much water as possible to mitigate the effects of a potential flood. Manatee County Commissioner George Cruz said that he visited the plant on Saturday, but left almost immediately after seeing the hazard. It sounds like George Cruz looked at this and said, "Fuck this, I'm out of here." We determined that it was no longer safe to be anywhere near Piney Point, so we kind of raced off the stacks as fast as we could, he told The Guardian in a statement of the disaster. So, that's what we're seeing up out of Florida. And yeah, like I said, the last thing we need is radioactive, mutated Florida men. Those fuckers are crazy enough as it is. Alright, let's keep going. Now let's talk about the Capitol attack. Wait, I'm sorry. What Capitol attack? There was no Capitol attack. We, the mainstreams, didn't report on the Capitol attack after it didn't fit our narrative anymore, so there was no Capitol attack. From NBC News, U.S. Capitol Police officer dies after attacker rammed car into checkpoint. Suspect also dead. This is from Dara Gregorian, Leanne Caldwell, and Jonathan Dienst. A U.S. Capitol Police officer was killed and another injured after a man drove a car into a security barricade at the Capitol complex on Friday, Acting Chief Yoganda Pittman said. The driver was shot after jumping out of the car with a knife and failing to respond to verbal commands and lunging at officers. Pittman said the suspect was taken into a hospital and pronounced dead a short time later. That's funny. I don't see any protests anywhere. Police officer shot a man with a knife, and there's no protest. I'm confused right now. 4 senior law enforcement officials briefed on the investigation identified the suspect as a 25-year-old man from Indiana, Noah Green. The fallen officer was identified as William Evans, who was known as Billy. Evans was an 18-year-old veteran of the Capitol Police and a member of the Capitol Division's First Responders Unit. Pittman said the extent of the injuries to the second officer were not clear. The Capitol Police said in a statement Friday evening that the officer is in stable and non-life-threatening condition. Earlier, President Biden had said the officer was fighting for his life, man. Pittman said, I just ask that the public continue to keep U.S. Capitol Police and their families in your prayers. This has been an extremely difficult time for U.S. Capitol Police after the events of January 6th, and now the events that have occurred here today, Pittman said. Robert Conti, acting chief of the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department, said that his department would take over the investigation. It does not appear to be terrorism-related, Conti said. Oh, really? That seems strange. Law enforcement sources said Green recently lived in Virginia. In postings on social media, he let his friends and family know that the past few years have been tough and the past few months have been tougher. I'm currently now unemployed after I left my job partly due to afflictions, but ultimately in search of a spiritual journey, he wrote on his now deleted Facebook page. Yeah, they scrubbed that shit pretty fucking quick. Green's page featured several recent postings that referenced the teachings of the Nation of Islam, a black separatist movement that does not follow the traditional teachings of Islam, and its leader Louis Farrakhan. Nation of Islam has been classified as a designated hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center because of what the SPLC calls deeply racist, anti-Semitic, and anti-LGBTQ rhetoric of its leaders. The postings do not indicate why Green, who is black, would target the Capitol. He posted about the end times in one post, and in another, on March 17th, warned about the last days of our world as we know it. Green's final post on Facebook from March 21st was a YouTube video called The Crucifixion of Michael Jackson, a 150-minute sermon in which Farrakhan defends Michael Jackson. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 paragraphs in before they mention Nation of Islam, Farrakhan, or even the color of this dude's skin. Which I think is just piss poor journalism off this, because if it was, and this is the big thing that I always say, always switch the races. Always switch the races, always switch the political parties, always switch the political leanings, switch the religions, switch all kinds of other things before you get outraged about something. And yes, we're all the way down here, and if this was a white guy, this would be top story. White crazed Trump lunatic tries to attack the Capitol. So that's what we have to see with that there. I got a couple more articles to talk about here. Crapplefrats put this one in here because we did talk about the race of the dude here. Business Master Crapplefrat says, breaking. A car has crashed into the barrier at the U.S. Capitol. Media is attempting to determine the demographics of the occupant of the vehicle to determine whether this was a mostly peaceful protest or B, domestic terrorism, which is pretty much what it was too. We're sitting back here trying to figure out, okay, can we report on this? Can we not report on this? What color was the guy's skin? Is this something that we can talk about, or is this something that we need to ignore? So that's what we have going on with that. Let's keep going. I got one from ABC News. Give that a second to think. Suspect identified in killing of officer at U.S. Capitol barricades. Sources from Jack Date, Victor Ordonez and Michelle Stoddart. 2 of the injured U.S. Capitol Police officers one of 2 has died after being hit by a suspect who then rammed their car into the...
deadly attack on Capitol Hill. The officer injured was released from...
One of the 2 U.S. Capitol Police officers has died after being hit by a suspect who then rammed their car into the north barricade of the Capitol complex Friday afternoon before exiting the vehicle with a knife. Acting Chief Uganda Pittman said at a press conference. Police opened fire and the suspect is dead, Pittman said. The suspect exited the vehicle with a knife in hand. Our officers then engaged the suspect. He did not respond to verbal commands, Pittman said. After the suspect lunged at the officers, they fired upon the suspect. The officer who died of injuries sustained at the scene has been identified as the 18-year-old Capitol Police veteran William Billy Evans. He began his U.S. Capitol Police service on March 7, 2003, and was a member of the Capitol Division's First Responders Units. Please keep Officer Evans and his family in your thoughts and prayers, Pittman said. Boy. I keep thinking about that Jeff Tiedrich dude who always says, well, there's no time for thoughts or prayers right now. Thoughts or prayers are fucking worthless. Every time there's some sort of shooting that coincides with his political leanings. The suspect, who was killed by Capitol Police, has been identified as Noah Green, law enforcement sources told ABC News. Authorities believe Green, 25, had ties to Virginia and Indiana, law enforcement sources said. I hate to say it, but they went out of their way to make this dude look as white as fucking possible. Authorities are taking a close look at the social media postings believed to be associated with Green. No clear motive has been established, sources said. Multiple agencies are investigating the incident, including the Capitol Police, D.C. Metro Police, and the FBI Washington Field Office. The FBI Indianapolis Field Office is also providing support and assisting law enforcement partners in the investigation. The other officer was last reported in stable and non-threatening condition. The Capitol was put on lockdown Friday afternoon. Hill staffers were sent a message from the U.S. Capitol Police around 1:20 p.m. saying that due to an external security threat, no entry or exit is permitted. The message said people could move around inside the building, but stay away from exterior windows and doors. If you are outside, seek cover. Which is just absolutely fucking great. Because now we get to listen first as Congress issues another 30,000-page security bill, which was completely not pre-written already, ready to drop at a moment's notice for something like this. And we get to listen to A.O. fucking Seabiscuit come out and tell us about how shell-shocked she was about this. We do not have the suspect on file with the U.S. Capitol Police, Acting Metro Police Department Chief Robert Contee said, so there's no indication at this time that there's any nexus to any member of Congress. Contee also said the incident didn't appear to be terror-related. Interesting. It is interesting to try and see what they're trying to do with this. I mean, the guy tried to ram his car in with a knife. Nowhere. I actually would be curious if he got out of his car and started screaming, Allahu Akbar! I don't know if he did or not, but that would be interesting to see, especially with the Nation of Islam and Farrakhan. It's very interesting to watch this and see just how fast this disappeared, too, because nobody was talking about this by Saturday. A couple of independent creators got up and did their Saturday morning videos about this, but by the end of Saturday, we're all talking about Jill Biden's tacky fucking outfit. So I got just a couple more on this topic. Let's see, from WDBJ7. Give that a second to wake back up here. Waiting for cash. I'm waiting for cash too. Man who rammed car into Capitol Police, former Allegheny High athlete. From Eddie Callahan. The man police identified as the driver behind the wheel Friday of a car that hit two Capitol Police officers, leaving one dead and one injured, was a former member of the Allegheny High School football team. According to the New York Times, a former newspaper, and other media outlets, Noah Green, 25, of Indiana, began playing in 2017 for Christopher Newport University in Newport News. Mr. Green was born in West Virginia, attended high school in Virginia, then enrolled in Glenville State College, where he played football before transferring to Christopher Newport University in Newport News, Virginia. He played defensive back on the Christopher Newport football team and graduated in 2019 with a degree in finance. The school's athlete page for Green details his prior time playing both defensive back and running back at Allegheny High, prior to eventually joining CNU Captains, following a few other stops along his athletic journey. Green died Friday from police gunfire after ramming his car into two police officers along a barricade. Interesting. Because I feel like in any other circumstance, it would have been Green was murdered by police officers in cold blood because he only had a knife and they had guns. Evil, evil guns. Those evil police officers, those white police officers murdered a black man. But they like the Capitol Police because those are the police that they control. Video footage of the incident showed the driver driver of the crash car emerging from his knife in his hand after starting to run. At the pair of officers, Capitol Police Acting Chief Yoganda Pittman told reporters, it was then that police fired at the man, leading to his death. Oh, the fucking propaganda in this. It was then that police fired at the man, leading to his death. That's like word count level stuff right there. Shit, this article's got to be 500 words. How do I get 7 more words in here? Police shot the man. No, police fired at the man, leading to his death. Got it. So that's what we see for that there. I've got one more. Talking about what Congress had to say about this. This is coming from Axios. Congress horrified by vehicle attack on Capitol. They're not allowed to be horrified. He's not white and not a Trump supporter. Members of Congress said they were horrified by Friday's car ramming attack at the U.S. Capitol that left 2 people dead, including Capitol Police Officer William Evans and the suspect, and 1 officer injured. Some security fencing was removed a week ago after months of heightened security following the January 6th attack at the Capitol. Guess what's fucking going back up? The National Guard remains at the U.S. Capitol, but in smaller numbers. Guess what's going back up? Members of the National Guard were seen on Friday deploying towards the Capitol barrier following the incident. What they're saying. Majority Leader Charles U. Schumer, I'm heartbroken for the officer killed today defending our Capitol and for his family. I'm praying for the officer injured and his family. We're in his debt. We thank the Capitol Police, National Guard, and first responders for all they do to protect the Capitol and those inside. Minority Leader Cocaine Mitch,
praying for the United States Capitol Police officers who were attacked on the Capitol. We're still learning what's taken place. Grateful to all the USCP first responders who were on the scene.
Chuck Grassley of Iowa. I don't have a good Chuck Grassley impression. Praying for law enforcement and first responders concerning the incident at the Capitol. Ron Johnson, monitoring the scene near the Senate today as we continue to learn more about what happened. Prayers go out to the officers injured. And the ever-loved and ever-reviled swing vote, Joe Manchin. The tragic loss of Officer William Billy Evans is yet another reminder of the sacrifices USCP make every day to keep our nation's capital and those who work there safe. Gail and I are praying for his family, friends, and colleagues as they mourn this heartbreaking loss. And then the House of Representatives, Pelosi, today America's heart has been broken by the tragic and heroic death of one of our Capitol Police officers, coming from a woman who said ACAB over the summer. Officer William Evans, he's a martyr for our democracy. Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, please join me in prayer for the 2 Capitol Police officers and their families. They reacted quickly and bravely, as did all the other first responders on the scene. The whole country is pulling for them right now. So that's what we see for them. I don't see horrified from these people. I just see, well, thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers. It's just, for me, it's the layout of who's saying thoughts and prayers for the officer because, you know, I am old enough to remember what happened in June, July, August because I'm more than 6 months old. So that's what these guys are doing here. All right. Let's talk about Georgia. And we're going to start today talking about Georgia and their election law with NPR. Georgia governor criticizes MLB for buying into liberal lies about new election law. From Matthew S. Schwartz. We speak in these dulcet tones over at NPR because we want our listeners to give us all their money. Put us in your will and then drive around listening to us and fall asleep at the wheel so we can get all of that money, that's our money, over at NPR. Remember, they need your donations to spread their progressive propaganda. Because just like PBS, they are funded in part, not just by taxpayers, but by viewers like you. Let's see what they have to say over there. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp lashed out at Major League Baseball for its decision to take both the All-Star Game and its draft out of the state this year in response to Georgia's new voting law. MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred said that relocating the events was the best way to demonstrate our values and opposed restrictions on votings, but in a press conference on Saturday, Kemp characterized the MLB's move as one based on fear and lies from liberal activists. The Election Integrity Act, passed into law at the end of March without any Democratic support, adds identification requirements for mail-in ballots and places restrictions on the number of drop boxes across the state. But it does expand early voting and all kinds of other progressive wish list items. So, yeah, we'll be arguing about this one till the end of time. While President Biden and prominent Democrats like former State Representative Stacey Abrams have criticized the law in spite of the fact that they haven't read it, as an attempt to make voting more difficult in Georgia, Republicans argue that it's deliberate mischaracterization of what the law actually does. Here's the truth, Kemp said. The law expands access to voting, secures ballot drop boxes around the clock in every county, expands weekend voting, protects no-excuse absentee voting. It levels the playing field on voter ID requirements, as well as streamlining election procedures. See, what we were told in the beginning of this is that he was getting rid of ballot drop boxes entirely. He was just making them go away, which I believe DeSantis actually did. So I don't know why we're not having this conversation in Florida. And it expands, that was the other thing they told us, was it got rid of absentee voting. No, it seems to protect that and even expand it a little bit. Your early voting goes out even further, which I don't care for at all. 17 days of early voting versus 6 in places like New York. That's also getting on Georgia's case for this. I do have to wonder how many people have actually read this bill and are still opposed to it. I'm actually opposed to this bill because it is such a progressive fucking wish list. But I don't live in Georgia, so it doesn't affect me either. But it does increase voter ID, which is always the screaming point of the progressive left. And it also puts security around drop boxes, the drop boxes that they have, which also I think would be a problem. Especially if you're going to have the, honestly, most secure and safest election in history. Democrats have taken particular umbrage to the portion of the law that prevents groups from providing water to voters standing in line in the Georgia heat in November. But election workers are still allowed to give voters water, Kemp said. It's just political organizations and anyone else who aren't allowed to harass or electioneer voters who are waiting to vote in line within the 150-foot buffer. And that's the other thing, too. With social distance, Styx has brought this up a lot. By the way, I've got a little announcement at the end of the show for that as well. But Styx has brought this up a lot, of the fact that with social distancing in place, 150 feet is like 50 people in line. And outside of those 50 people, you can bring them all the food and water that you want. The relevant text of the bill states that no person can offer food or drink to a voter in line, but clarifies that a poll officer can make available self-service water from an unattended receptacle. Which is, once again, the nonpartisan people, the people who are supposed to be nonpartisan and working in the voting line, can put it up there, but nobody can stand over by the water cooler and say, "Hey, you fucker, you better vote for my guy, or we're going to have some consequences here. I'm watching you, you son of a bitch." Kemp and State Attorney General Chris Carr pointed to measures in the law that they say will help turnout, including expanded voting hours across the state. No, they're just going to make it 9 to 5. No, it's a minimum of 9 to 5, you fucking morons. They also pointed out that Georgia law specifies a minimum of 17 days of early voting with absentee votes allowed for any reason. It's easier to vote in Georgia than it is in New York, Kemp said. Fact check true. And New York also has the same, you can't bring food or water to somebody in line. In addition to MLB's announcement, the state has also faced pushback from Coca-Cola and Delta, who are going to be sorry, whose executives expressed disappointment with the legislation after they were both in full support of it while it was still in bill form. Delta CEO Ed Bastian argued this week that the entire rationale for this bill was based on a lie, that there was widespread voter fraud in Georgia. Well, there goes YouTube. In the 2020 elections, that claim has been repeatedly disproved. Safest and most secure election in history, Joe Biden is the most popular president in history, far surpassing Barack Obama. Honk. Wink, wink. Kemp characterized the corporate response as a direct result of cancel culture and said the MLB's decision to pull out of Atlanta, where both the All-Star Game and the draft were scheduled to take place this July, will hurt Georgians who were depending on the All-Star Game for a paycheck. So that's what we're seeing with MLB coming back out of here. We got to talk just a bit more about that as well. But it's all propaganda at this point for people who won't sit down and read the bill. Let's see. I've got a tweet here from Mark Elias talking about the Georgia bill here. And this was interesting to me, because I know what my driver's license looked like and where to go with this. But Mark Elias, who is a blue check for I have no fucking idea why, says the new Georgia law will require voters to submit ID to vote by mail. If they use their driver's license, they need to provide the number. One of the two numbers below is correct. If they put the other, it will be rejected. Are you sure you would pick the right one? I don't know. I guess I would pick the one that says DL number. Wouldn't you? I mean, if you're looking for your driver's license number, I would go where it says driver's license number. Wouldn't you? If you can't figure that out, you probably shouldn't be voting. I'm sorry to say this to you, and I'm probably dashing a lot of people's dreams, but if you can't figure this out, you probably shouldn't be voting. And furthermore, especially with less than 10 digits on a number, a lot of the times on the form, they'll put the proper number of spaces in there so you can't fuck it up. Somebody else on Twitter pointed that out. He said, I would see the 9 spaces there for numbers, and I would pick the one that had 9 numbers in it. Yeah, the people who would get confused like that should not be voting. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. No, fuck that. I'm not sorry. If you can't read your own government document, then yeah, you shouldn't be picking the people who make the laws in your state that affect people. All right, let's keep going off that. From the Daily Wire. Maybe. It's thinking. Georgia County that voted for Biden to lose $100+ million over MLB relocating game after Biden remarks. Report from Ryan Saavedra. The Georgia County that was set to host the 2020 Major League Baseball All-Star Game said over the weekend that it will lose more than $100 million after the league pulled the game and draft out of the state, a decision that comes after Democrats Madeline Number. I am guessing right now that says Democrats Madeline Number. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that was supposed to be Democrats made a number. For those of you listening on the audio platform, you can see that actually says Democrats Madeline, Madeline number. False claims about the state's new election law and signaled they would support the league by boycotting the state. Holly Quinlan, president and CEO of Cobb Travel and Tourism, said that the estimated lost economic impact for the county was more than $100 million. This event would have directly impacted our county and the state as visitors spend their dollars on local accommodations, transportation, entertainment, recreation, food, and retail throughout the county. Cobb County Travel and Tourism said this would have been a big boost to Cobb business and help with recovery after the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, once again, I'm going to go out with my ignorance to Georgia geography because I don't know where Cobb County is. I would guess that this is the county that houses Atlanta. because that would make sense for the MLB game to be in Atlanta because they've got the baseball stadium for the Braves right there, ready to go and ready to house people. So I'm going to go over on the limb and say this is Atlanta. And yeah, Atlanta went massively for Biden. Massively for Biden. So the Democrats at this point, who have come out and said, MLB, pull out of Georgia, have cut off their fucking nose to spite their face. $100 million out of local business. Because the Democrats said it was a good idea because they wanted to hammer it back at Kemp. What? You see a lot of this too. I mean, you see this with the police protests. Where were the police protests happening? Where were the shootings happening? In these major left-wing cities. I mean, I know Minneapolis, that's major left-wing bastion. I know Atlanta, where Sakori Turner got shot and Rayshard Brooks was. That's Atlanta. That's major left-wing area. Portland, of course, major left-wing area. Even Kenosha is a major left-wing area. Kenosha houses one of the most liberal schools in Wisconsin, next to Madison, of course. And they don't sit back and look at their own policy procedures. It's like they do these things and then they hurt their own cities to do that. They look at this and say, okay, we've got to make this grand statement either by burning down every fucking small business we can find or taking away a massive commercial venture that's going to bring all kinds of money into all these small businesses that are struggling right now because of the commie fucking coup. All they do is they hurt their own people. So that's what I've got to see with that, and I thought you guys would enjoy that. All right, I've got one from Newsweek. This is the counter argument to this one. Georgia County says, no, this is actually the same thing as what we just read in the Daily Wire. So we'll actually skip this one because we just read it. Maybe we won't skip it because maybe my browser will freeze up. There it goes. Yeah, let's skip that one. And read from the New York Post. The PGA Tour keeping 2021 Tour Championship in Georgia after MLB yanks the All-Star Game. I swear I'm not Joe Biden in a mask. Come on, man. It's Corn Pop, and he's a bad dude. And from Peter Botti, Major League Baseball has pulled its All-Star Game from Atlanta, but the PGA Tour says it will not move its Tour Championship later this year from Georgia based on the state's new voting law. With the Masters slated to be played this week in Augusta, the PGA Tour announced that the Tour Championship, the season's final FedEx Cup playoff event, will be held at East Lake Golf Club in Atlanta for the first week of September. Hold on. Due to financial commitments to local businesses and charities. The Tour Championship's commitment to East Lake has helped our partners transform distressed neighborhoods into healthy and thriving ones, which is a key to ending the cycle of intergenerational poverty, the PGA Tour said on Saturday in a statement. The charitable and economic benefits that have led to these substantial changes would not continue if we simply walked away from those in need. See, this is the way you do this right here. And the PGA is doing awesome with this. Now, once again, I don't know where East Lake is either. But they're going to stick around in Georgia because them being there, just like the MLB All-Star Game and the draft, is going to bring in people from around the country. People of means especially, who can afford to travel around the country and go in and watch the PGA Tour and spend a buttload of money, both in the golf courses, on the hotels around the area, in the restaurants around the area, in some of the thrift shops around the area, the souvenir shops around the area. They're going to come in and spend a buttload of money. Which is going to help these communities. They came out and said, we made a commitment to this because we want to help the people off of this. And this is going to be more local than the entire statewide thing. We'll let the state do their own thing, but we'll let the localities deal with it. This is the way to do this. Absolutely is. So I'm happy to see that. And hey, maybe I'll start watching golf. Probably not. It's like watching paint dry, but Maybe. Maybe they deserve my commercial views. Not really. All right, let's keep going. Let's talk about the border, starting with listening to everybody's favorite Democratic Socialist Congresswoman, Jenny from the Bronx herself. Rep AOC on the border. What's happening here is not the same as what happened during the Trump administration, where they took babies out of the arms of their mothers, okay, Poppy?
Now, the first thing I want to say is that the fact that this keeps happening over and over and over again is a political failure by both parties. And I want to be very clear about that, because I don't want to draw false equivalence. What is happening here is not the same as what happened during the Trump administration, where they took babies out of the arms of their mothers and deported their families and permanently traumatized these children, some of whom we don't know will ever be reunified with their family again, which is a level of human rights violation that is just simply not the same. Both of these things are barbaric and they're wrong. But when you rip a baby out of the hands of a mother, you cannot draw the same comparison. And anyone who is trying to do that is doing a profound disservice to the cause of justice. So I don't want to excuse any of this, but I don't think we should also get them twisted together, because
hang on, folks. Technical difficulties. Sorry, I hit a wrong button while I was
period.
On air there, and that knocked all the desktop audio back out. But that's what we're hearing from AOC off of this. It's not the same, okay? They were literally ripping the babies from the arms of their mothers, which is what they're doing now. And okay, it's still not the same, okay? Just trust me on that. No, it's like 10 times worse at this point. These kids are being ripped from their mother's arms, which we still can't understand. Who's a mother, who's a father, and we'll go back and figure that out at the date after we go back and process these people. But they're lined up like sardines in tinfoil, in a Mylar blanket, and even under a bridge. We'll be talking about that later on tonight, because we looked at the Veritas video Friday when we were talking about this. So, yet you're right. It's not the same. It's worse. All right, let's keep going. I figured you guys would find this one entertaining. Let that load back up here. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the Honorable and Venerable D. Twitch, is among the least effective lawmakers in Congress, according to a study. This is from Pix 11 out of New York. So this is right out of her district, too. Well, maybe not her district, but at least adjacent. Representative, the Honorable and Venerable Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, D. Twitch, was one of the least effective lawmakers in Congress over the past 2 years, ranking 230th out of 240 Democrat members, a new study found. The Nonpartisan Center for Effective Lawmaking, a joint project by the University of Virginia and Vanderbilt University, assigned legislative effectiveness scores to each member of Congress based on more than a dozen metrics, including the number of bills a lawmaker is sponsored and how far each of those bills advanced through the legislative process. The scores are compiled biannually after the conclusion of each Congress. While political talking points and ideology-fueled headlines may gather more attention, bill advancement is the key to effectiveness for every elected lawmaker in Congress, says the Studies Cove director, Craig Bolden, who is also a professor at the University of Virginia's Frank Batten School of Leadership and Public Policy. Ocasio-Cortez, D. Twitch, who represents parts of Queens and the Bronx, and Twitch, introduced 21 bills during the 116th Congress. from January 2019 to January of 2021, but none of them made it out of their respective committees, according to the study. Among the 19 Democratic congressional members in New York, Occasional Cortex ranked last in effectiveness, according to the Center for Effective Lawmaking. Alan Weisman, a Vanderbilt political scientist and co-founder of the center, told the New York Post that while the freshman lawmaker worked hard to advance her legislative agenda, she struggled to get fellow lawmakers to support it. She introduced a lot of bills, but she was not successful at having them receive any sort of action in committee and beyond committee, and if they can't get through committee, then cannot pass the House, Weisman said. So, I thought you guys would love to hear that. Yes, she can get on her Instagram Live and tell you how horrible it is, the conditions at the border, and what these evil people are doing, but they're not doing anymore because Joe Biden is the patron saint of democracy and Democrats, and he eats ice cream, and he's fucking jacked, and come on, man. But she can't get a bill past committee. 230th out of 240 Democratic members. All that makes me think is, who was worse? Who was less effective than the Honorable and Venerable Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez D-Twitch? So, that's what we see there. Let's keep going. Speaking of things that are stupid and coming out of Congress. Give that one a second to think. Fox Business always takes a while, though. Alright, from Fox Business. Pelosi opens doors to lifting SALT tax cap and Biden's $2.25 trillion spending bill. From Megan Henney. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi signaled support this week for including a repeal of the $10,000 cap on state and local deductions in President Biden's sweeping spending proposal. Hopefully, we can get it into the bill, Pelosi said during a Thursday news conference. I never give up hope for something like that. Several Democrats from New York and New Jersey this week threatened to withdraw support from the $2.25 trillion infrastructure measure, dubbed the American Jobs Plan, unless the Trump era deduction limit is lifted. Pelosi called the deduction cap, which was imposed by Republicans with the passage of the 2017 tax overhaul, devastating to taxpayers in her home state of California, and she is sympathetic to rank-and-file members pushed to roll back the deduction limit. But the hard line from the group of moderate Democrats could push the bill's passage at risk unless 10 Republicans break with Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, who slammed the plan as a Trojan horse for major tax hikes, or the White House significantly changes its offer. Democrats will almost certainly have to pass the measure by budget reconciliation, the obscure Senate rule the party used last month to approve Biden's $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan without a single GOP vote. And once again, to look at what we're seeing with this, a $10,000 cap on state and local deductions. What we're doing right now, of course, we also look at the fact that this state and local tax deduction was taken away from the taxes on Trump's plan, which meant that taxes did essentially go up. Slightly for people in California and New York, but for the rest of us, it was fine. Because you pay your state taxes first, then you can deduct the amount that you pay in your state taxes out of your federal tax or out of your federal income. Under Trump's plan, you couldn't do that anymore. And it was still a net positive for most taxpayers across the middle of the country. I know people come out and still try to tell you that it only affected their rich buddies, but, well, Trump's rich buddies in New York and California got fucking hammered over that provision. They got hammered over that. And now Pelosi's putting something back in here to try and help out her rich buddies and constituents in Silicon Valley. She's doing this because her people got fucking hammered, and I'm sure that Schumer's probably thinking the same thing. All his rich finance buddies over in New York are sitting here thinking, okay, well, I got to do something here to get these people some of their money back. They're trying to get this out of here because then these people aren't going to get hammered as hard on their taxes once the taxes all go back up. So, yeah, just another way Democrats are out there helping their rich buddies. All right, let's keep going. Let's talk about Kamala Harris from The Hill. Kamala Harris and Bill Clinton to hold talk on pandemic's impact on women. This is an old article. This is from 323. I don't know why this showed up in my articles worth investigating. This is old. Somebody must have shared it back out on Twitter. Yeah, we already know about this one. I'm going to tell you how to empower women. Yeah, we talked about this 2 weeks ago already. I empower all kinds of women. Look at all them book sales that Monica had. All right, skip. Next one. Speaking of empowering women, let's see from what CNN has to say here, if it loads back up here. But they're going to talk about Matt Gaetz. There it comes. Gaetz showed nude photos of women he said he'd slept with. The lawmakers' sources tell CNN. Sources. From Jeremy Herb, Lauren Fox, and Ryan Nobles. Oh, this one's running slow too. Well, let's see if we got kicked off of online, because that might have happened. If the browser locks up, I usually have to check whether or not my connection dropped off. Nope, we're back up. Representative Matt Gaetz, the Florida Republican being investigated by the Justice Department over sex trafficking allegations, made a name for himself when he arrived on Capitol Hill as a conservative firebrand on TV and staunch defender of then-President Donald Trump. Behind the scenes, Gaetz gained a reputation in Congress over his relationships with women and bragging about his sexual escapades to his colleagues, multiple sources told CNN. That sounds like something I would do, not gonna lie. Gaetz allegedly showed off to other lawmakers and photos and videos of nude women he said he had slept with, the source told CNN, including while on the House floor. The sources, including two people directly shown the material, said Gaetz displayed the images of women on his phone and talked about having sex with them. One of the videos showed a naked woman with a hula hoop, according to a source. It was a point of pride, one of the sources said of Gaetz. There's no indication these pictures are connected to the DOJ investigation. Gaetz, 38, who was elected to Congress in 2016, has been at the center of a number of controversies in his 4+ years in Congress, but he's now embroiled in easily his biggest scandal yet after the Justice Department began investigating him in the final months of the Trump administration under then Attorney General William Barr as part of a larger investigation into another Florida politician. Federal investigators are examining whether Gaetz engaged in a relationship with a woman that began when she was 17 years old, and whether his involvement with other young women broke federal sex trafficking and prostitution laws, two people briefed on the matter said. Gaetz has denied the allegations, saying no part of the allegations against me are true, and he claimed Tuesday that he was the victim of an extortion plot which the FBI is separately investigating. And the fact that the Justice Department went directly to investigate this does give me a little bit of pause and concern to say, okay, well, maybe I'll hear Matt Gaetz out. But if what the Justice Department is pursuing is proven to be true, then fuck this dude. Then he's fucking scum. And then get him out of here. But the fact that the FBI didn't initiate this, or a local police department didn't initiate this first, especially a local police department, because that would have fallen under their jurisdiction. If a sitting congressman is taking a 17-year-old out of state on a plane without parental consent, the local police department would have been involved long before the Justice Department was. And the same with the FBI, especially if he was crossing state lines. The FBI would have been involved with this long before the Justice Department was involved with this. So I have a lot of questions about this. If he's guilty, get his fucking ass out of here. But one thing I want to remind everybody, because this is being drawn off of this as well, people are starting to talk about Representative Katie Hill in all of this too, because they're saying that the GOP needs to force Gaetz to resign because the Democrats forced Katie Hill to resign. And that is on a completely different things. Now, the reason I bring that up is because people are out there trying to tell you that Katie Hill resigned because her ex-husband leaked a naked picture of her brushing someone else's hair. That's not why she resigned. That's never been why she resigned. That was the cover-up, so that you didn't have to ask questions about why she was fucking half of her staff. Which is blatantly against House rules, by the way. This whole and then, as far as the leak goes, I don't know. I got a lot of suspicion about how that happened, but as far as the leak goes, that when people started figuring out about the stuffing the staff thing, I'm sure that Nancy got up behind her and said, "Okay, you're going to retire. I'm going to make your life a living hell." But that's where the news media chose to cover that back up with, was the leaked photo. That's not why she resigned. So, I don't know where this goes. If he diddled a 17-year-old, well, that actually does fall into state laws, but taking her across state lines, that's a different story. And I can't believe that the local police department or the FBI didn't get involved with that before Bill Barr did. So, a lot of questions going on with this, but if he's guilty, get his ass out of there. Quickly. All right, speaking of Florida. DeSantis issues executive order banning vaccine passports from Jordan Williams over at the Hill. Please allow ads to support journalism. Are they going to let me X out of this? There it goes. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis issued an executive order on Friday banning vaccine passports that require people to show proof of vaccination against COVID-19. Today, I issued an executive order prohibiting the use of so-called COVID-19 vaccine passports. DeSantis announced on Twitter the legislature is working on making permanent these protections for Floridians, and I look forward to signing them into law soon. Which I've got the EO up here as a PDF, so we'll page through it a little bit. It's really short, so... The order prevents government entities from issuing vaccine passports, vaccine passes, or other standardized documentation for the purpose of certifying an individual's COVID-19 vaccine status to a third party. It also prohibits businesses in the state from requiring customers or patrons to provide documentation certifying COVID-19 vaccinations or post-transmission recovery. To receive services, businesses can still institute COVID-19 screening protocols. The order comes after DeSantis said on Monday that he would take action against vaccine passports by an executive function, emergency function, and he called on the state legislature to draft legislation forbidding these passports. It's completely unacceptable for either the government or the private sector to impose upon you the requirements that you show proof of vaccine just to simply participate in normal society. So let's go over what this actually says briefly, and then I want to give my take on this because I am split right down the middle on this one. So here's the document by PDF. Whereas on March 9th, 2020, I issued Executive Order 2052, subsequently extended, declaring a state of emergency for the entire state of Florida as a result of COVID-19. And whereas on December 23rd, 2020, I issued Executive Order 2315, as subsequently extended by Executive Orders 2146, 2147, 2162, 2167, and 2179, directing Florida's initial phase of vaccine distribution and prioritizing seniors first. So a lot of this is just whereas. Let's get into the meat of this. Now, therefore, I, Ron DeSantis, as Governor of Florida by virtue of the authority vested in me by Article 4 of Section 1A of the Florida Constitution and the Florida Emergency Management Act as amended, and all other applicable laws, promulgate the following executive order. No Florida government entity or its subdivisions, agents, or assigns shall be permitted to issue vaccine passports, vaccine passes, or other standardized documentation for the purpose of certifying an individual's COVID-19 vaccination status to a third party or otherwise publish or share individual's COVID-19 vaccination record or similar health information. Section 2. Businesses in Florida are prohibited from requiring patrons or customers to provide any documentation certifying COVID-19 vaccination or post-transmission recovery to gain access to upon entry or service from the business. Section 3. All executive agencies under my direction shall work to ensure businesses comply with this order. Any provision of Florida statutes is hereby suspended solely to the extent it restricts a Florida agency from requiring compliance with this order as a coalition for its license, permit, or other state authorization necessary for conducting business in Florida. Section 4, all businesses must comply with this order to be eligible for grants or contracts funded through the state revenue. Section 5, the requirements in this order do not otherwise restrict businesses from instituting COVID-19 screening protocols in accordance with state and federal law to protect public health, and nothing herein shall be construed to interfere with individuals' rights to access their own personal health information under federal law. Section 6. This order is effective immediately and shall remain in effect for the duration of Executive Order 2052 as extended. So there's a lot of legalese in there to explain essentially that no state agency can issue this, the COVID passport for the express purpose of getting into a business, which I'm fine with because that falls under Ron DeSantis' purview as governor. What I don't like about this, but I'm still split 50-50 down the middle of it, is the fact that no business shall be allowed in the state of Florida to require a passport or a vaccine for entry into exercising their normal day-to-day life. Now, I am of the mind that a private business should be able to do what a private business wants to do. And I know that the Walt Disney Corporation is absolutely going to want to have Disney parks have a COVID pass on them. Absolutely will. There's no question about that. The problem that I am having with these vaccine passports is the fact that the government knows that they can't do this. But they can get all their business buddies to come out here and say, well, we can't make a law to do this, but you guys just make the rules and do what we tell you to. And hey, we'll make sure that these nice grants come your way. And that's where we've actually got to sit back and think about, is this the thing with the vaccine passport and the private businesses doing it. It's the same thing with the states and the drinking age to 21. It's an allegory that I've used and other content creators have used in the past to explain what's going on with this and why we have so many states and businesses doing the federal government's bidding. There is no federal drinking age. But the federal government, on its budgets, have told all the states that in order to continue to get highway funding, they have to have their minimum drinking age at 21. Now, the smoking age is actually unconstitutional, and I would love to see that get challenged, where they boosted that back up to 21, because that was done by executive fiat. But the drinking age, that is all done on a state level, but it's done with the federal government holding government grants over the states' heads. And I've got a feeling that with this COVID passport, there's already been talks of that going on with big business as well. These big businesses looking back at the government and hearing, oh, hey, you want that grant? Hey, you want that tax break? You better put a vaccine passport in. Otherwise, wouldn't it be a shame if you didn't get this tax break? Wouldn't it be a shame if you had to pay more taxes and a massive amount because you didn't do what we told you to do? So as far as private business doing the government's bidding, I don't like that, but I don't know where you draw the distinction between private property, do what you want, and making sure that the government or businesses aren't doing the government's bidding. There's a fine line there, and I don't know what the solution is. I really don't. I can complain about it all day long, but this is one where I don't know the solution. So that's what we've got going on with that. Let's keep going. From the New York Post. New York opens Office of Cannabis Management following legalization from Bernadette Hogan and Natalie Musumeci. There's no smoke without bureaucracy. The state-run website for the new Office of Cannabis Management was launched Friday following the legalization of recreational marijuana in New York. The website is meant to educate the public on the OCM's regulatory structure, which, with the Cannabis Control Board, will oversee the licensure, cultivation, production, distribution, sale, and taxation of the medical adult use and cannabinoid hemp within New York State, Governor Andrew Cuomo's office said. The state site also provides resources for individuals seeking medical cannabis practitioners and medical cannabis IDs, as well as businesses seeking licensure to participate in the adult use, medical, and cannabinoid hemp industries, even though legal marijuana cannot be sold by licensed dispensaries. Legalizing cannabis was the first step in the historic endeavor to right the wrongs of the past, Cuomo said in a statement on Friday. The Office of Cannabis Management's website provides critical preliminary information pending the creation of the Cannabis Control Board about the future of this industry, as well as the resources for individuals and businesses seeking information on the future of cannabis in New York State, said Cuomo. The governor added, "The website outlines the comprehensive reforms that this legislation enacts, and I know will be a valued resource for many as we move forward." Yep, you knew you wouldn't legalize it unless the government got the fuck involved, because they're going to come out and make a hefty amount of tax on it, which I predicted when people started talking about legalizing it and doing it statewide. You know, my neocon cousin that I cite all the time up here, he and I were talking about this, and he thinks that anybody who smokes weed at all should not be allowed to participate in polite society ever. He's that devout in the neocon ideology, but he says that we should legalize it. And then just tax the shit out of it to de-incentivize people from smoking it and still make the money back off of that, which I honestly, I know where that would go. People would go out and they would start buying it in droves because it's new and it's cool and it's edgy. And then get away with it now. They can blow the weed smoke in a cop's face and he can't do a goddamn thing about it. Except that would be assault, but that's a different story. But the novelty would wear off, probably within about 4 years, and then you'd have public service announcement every third commercial telling you how bad cannabis is for you, how bad it is for your lungs, and how early people die from it. But, yep, New York has legalized it, and they're going to tax the fucking shit out of it. All right. Let's see, what else do we have here? What else are we doing today? This was great, and I've got a Blaze article to go. I've got a Daily Wire article to go with this. I thought I had a Blaze one to go with this. Yep. I gotta switch these up here because I've got a Blaze article to go with this, not a Daily Wire. But Tony says how to deal with Nazis, and absolute legend. So let's watch this video.
Please get out. Get out of this property. Immediately get out. Get out of this property immediately. Out. I don't want to hear anything. Out of this property immediately.
Uh-oh. We're having lag. Okay, maybe the video doesn't want to play because it looks like we're lagging over here.
Out! Out of this property immediately until you come back with a warrant. Out! 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 Out of this property! Immediately out! Immediately go out and don't come back. I don't want to talk to you. Not a word. Out of this property. Immediately out. I don't care what you have to say. Out! Out! Out of this property, you Nazis! Out! Out! Gestapo is not allowed here. Immediately, Gestapo is not allowed. Out! Do you understand English? Get out of this property. Go. So go. Go. And don't come back without a warrant. Out, Nazi. Out. Out. You understand? Nazis are not welcome here. Out. And don't come back without a warrant. Do not come back without a warrant. You understand that? You're not welcome here. Nazis are not welcome here. Gestapo is not welcome here. Do not come back, you Nazi psychopaths. Unbelievable, sick, evil people. Intimidating people in a church during the Passover. You Gestapo, Nazi, communist, fascists. Don't you dare coming back here. Can you imagine those psychopaths? Passover, the holiest Christian festival in a year, and they're coming to intimidate Christians during the holiest festival? Unbelievable. What is wrong with those sick psychopaths?
Now, I can't identify that guy's accent, but just having that in that accent just made that even more chilling to listen to off of this here. Let's see what the Blaze has to say about this, and we'll see if we can get some details on what happened here. From the Blaze Media, viral video shows pastor kick out mask enforcing cops from his church. You Gestapo, Nazi, communist, fascists. From Carlos Garcia. A video captured the moment a Canadian pastor drove away health officials and police trying to enforce the mask mandate at his church during a Passover service, which we just watched. The incident unfolded Saturday at a church in Calgary in Alberta, Canada, pastored by Arthur Pawlowski. Oh, it's Albertian, that's probably why. Yeah, it does. Now that I think about it, he does kind of sound like JP. The video shows several police officers assisting in a public health official inside the church as Pawlowski yells at them to get out of his church. Immediately, get out of this property. I don't want to hear anything, yells Pawlowski. Until you get the warrant, out, he continues screaming. Immediately, go out and don't come back. I don't want to talk to you, not one word. Pawlowski forces the officials out and chases them away while decrying what he saw as intimidation. Do not come back, you Nazi psychopaths. Unbelievable, sick people, intimidating people in a church during the Passover, he says on the video. You Gestapo, Nazi, communist, fascists. The video quickly went viral on Twitter with millions of views. Calgary police released a statement on Sunday explaining their part in the action against the church and Pawlowski. The concern was that the people in attendance were not adhering to the government's COVID-19 public health orders, which are in place to ensure everyone's safety, said the police in part. The organizer of the gathering was uncooperative with the health inspector and repeatedly raised his voice asking all parties to leave the premises, which they did approximately 1 minute after entry and in a peaceful manner. We understand the pandemic has caused great disruption to all the Calgarians and their professional and personal lives. We do not wish to disrupt anyone's holidays or religious or spiritual events. However, we must support our partner agencies when called upon to help ensure everyone can safely celebrate these occasions, the statement concluded. The police indicated that no tickets were issued at the time, but subsequent enforcement activity is being considered. So they're coming back. They are coming back to do this again and do it right. So we will probably get another video off of this one. But yeah, they're there for gathering and mask mandates. That's what they're there for. All right. Let's grab the one here from the Daily Wire. Then I got one more here, and then we'll do two things that actually restore my faith in humanity. Not just one. We're getting a twofer for that one here. FBI warns Americans who use fake vaccines passports may be breaking the law. No fucking shit, you fucking morons. Of course they're breaking the law. The question is whether or not they care. And you know what? They don't. If you were going out to make a fake vaccine passport, you know full well you're breaking the law. Do you think Al Capone would have looked at this and said, oh shit, I'm breaking the law. I can't make any more and run any more of this fucking liquor. That's the point of a black fucking market, you idiots. Alright, this is from Joseph Curl. The FBI is pledging to go after people who make or buy fake COVID-19 vaccination record cards. President Biden's administration has been working with major corporations to establish a nationwide vaccine passport, and last month New York rolled out its own vaccine passports, which state residents will need to show in order to get into most sports and entertainment venues. Now the FBI is warning people against using fake vaccine passports. We've all seen friends posting their COVID-19 vaccination cards on social media, wrote the Minneapolis branch of the FBI on social media. If you make or buy a fake one to misrepresent your vaccination status, you endanger other people and may also be breaking the law. Breaking the law, breaking the law. The local FBI linked to a press release from the Internet Crime Complaint Center titled, "If you make or buy a fake COVID-19 vaccination record card, you endanger yourself and those around you, and you are breaking the law." The FBI offered 2 links, both warning people against posting cards on social media, and the agency provided a way for people to tattle on others. To report suspicious activity involving fake vaccination record cards, please contact the appropriate government agency in your state or jurisdiction, HHS-OIG 1-800-HHS-TIPS or www.oig.hhs.gov, or the Internet Crime Complaint Center, www.ic3.gov. This is getting more and more SS as we go along. This is getting even worse as we continue to go down this scary-ass Gestapo path. And don't ever, I do not condone at all, don't ever make a fake vaccine card. Don't ever do that. I disavow any attempt to do that. You should never, ever, ever do something like that. Ever. Never, ever, ever. You should never make a fake vaccine card. Ever, ever. Doing that would be wrong, and it would definitely put people around you in danger. So never, ever, 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 ever make a fake vaccine card. Alright, so that's what we have going on with that. And the last one that I have for you guys who still use Boomerbook, which guilty because I keep the webpage up. I'm sorry, the fan page up for here. You can find that in the description below. 500 million Facebook users' information posted on hacking website, cyber experts say. From Donnie O'Sullivan. The personal information of about 500 million Facebook users, including their phone numbers, have been posted to a website used by hackers, cybersecurity experts say. There are records for more than 32 million accounts in the US, 11 million in the UK, and 6 million in India. According to Alon Gall, the CTO of cyber intelligence firm Hudson Rock. Details in some cases include full name, location, birthday, email addresses, phone number, and relationship status, he said. Well, most people leave that public anyway. It's not exactly a leak. Hudson Rock showed CNN Business the phone numbers of 2 of our senior staff, which are included in the database. The leak was first reported by the news website Insider. This is old data that was previously reported in 2019. We found and fixed this issue in August 2019. Facebook spokesperson Andy Stone told CNN on Saturday. Facebook did not say if it notified affected users at the time. Stone added, in 2019, we removed people's ability to directly find others using their phone numbers across both Facebook and Instagram, a function